Man of Steel is the movie that's going to haunt James Gunn for the rest of his career. No, strike that, for the rest of his life. They fired David Goyer. They removed Henry Cavill. They removed Zack Snyder using the tragic death of his daughter. They've recently fired Tyler Hoechlin as Superman as well. And make no mistake, this is not a new regime. This is the same people who did those things to Zack Snyder. And they've gone, look, forget what was over there. Forget them. We've got a brand new universe. We've got a brand new Superman. You don't need to be worrying about anything. Don't worry about that Snyderverse, that Man of Steel movie. Forget about it. We've got something shiny here. Don't worry about that. Don't think about that. But it's not as simple as that. Should I tell you something about hardcore Superman fans? Because I'm one of them, by the way. But I'm not as nitpicky as the rest of them, as the rest of you. With Superman Returns and Man of Steel, hardcore Superman fans picked both of those films till there was nothing left. Criticism after criticism after criticism. Kate Bosworth's forehead because she's wearing a wig. Kate Bosworth was too young. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, Superman Returns was boring. Oh, he's an absentee father. Oh, he's stalking Lois Lane. Superman would never do that. Oh, Man of Steel had too much action and too much destruction. Henry's Superman barely says anything in the film. Oh my God, Superman killed Zod. Blah, blah, blah. They picked up both movies to death until there was nothing left. And Mr. James Gunn, if you think that these hardcore fans are going to let you off the hook, they're going to pick at your film till there's nothing left of your film as well. Nothing has changed. Hardcore Superman fans have not changed. They're going to pick at every flaw of your movie. They're already doing it. The costume. Now, what's interesting about Gunn's costume, and we don't even know if this is the real Superman's costume or if it's a clone costume, who the hell knows? The costume is in its design is trying to have a bit of everything. New 52, All-Star Superman, Kingdom Come, because he believes if he's got a bit of everything, if he ticks every fan box, nobody's going to criticize him, and that is not how it works, my friend. James Gunn's Superman is about pleasing everyone, about being this optimistic version of Superman. A word to the not so wise. When Jerry and Joe launched Superman, he was a low-level enforcer. He wasn't an optimistic character. He was beating up cruel employers. He was beating up abusive spouses, abusive husbands. He wasn't fighting Brainiac. He wasn't fighting Doomsday. He wasn't fighting Metallo. He wasn't fighting Bizarro. He was a low-level social justice warrior, a low-level enforcer. If I ever did write a movie, one of my ideas would be to start where he is this low-level enforcer to what he became later on. Superman's evolution is very interesting. But going back to Man of Steel is a ballsy, contemporary, brave movie. It says, we don't care about that 1978 movie, and let's not get it twisted. Superman 78, directed by Dick Donner and starring Christopher Reeve, is the reason I love stories and movies and entertainment, and the reason I love Superman. I'm not here to shit on that movie. But what they were doing with Man of Steel was to say, we're making a modern day, we're adapting a modern day Superman, and we don't care about your feelings, And this movie makes around $700 million, so obviously someone went to see it. It had rewatchability, and it has a lot of commentary as well. If you think about Zod trying to take Earth and using a world engine to change the atmosphere for Kryptonians, it's exactly what NASA are doing in outer space right now, looking for new worlds and planets that we can move to. So we messed this world up, as Michael Shannon says on the BTS of Man of Steel. Now we're looking for another planet to mess up. And this is part of the commentary of Man of Steel. And it has a lot of commentary in it. It has a great Superman. It has a great Martha Kent. It has a great Pa Kent. It has a great Perry White. The action, and I've said before, the reason there's so much action and destruction isn't Goya, isn't Nolan, isn't Snyder. You all blame Snyder for all the destruction and action when it was a studio mandate because Superman Returns was accused of being a boring movie. The studio looked at that criticism and tried to say, look, the fans weren't happy because there wasn't enough action. We want to see stuff being blown up. We want to see Superman punching someone, which we did. And I never had any problems with the destruction and the explosions. I thought it was epic, awesome. Snyder shot it to hell. It's still, today, when you put on that movie, it looks like it was made yesterday, not over 10 years ago. Beautiful VFX, beautiful cinematography. It's a brilliant movie because it has it all. It has emotions. It shows us the obstacles that young Clark had in Smallville. And then it shows Superman being forced to suit up before he's had any training. So this is Superman Begins. And General Zod, Michael Shannon's General Zod, is my equally top 2 favourite comic book movie villain of all time with Ledger's Joker. Surprise, surprise, guess who wrote both of them? David Goyer and Chris Nolan. And that comes as no surprise. But because Man of Steel didn't make $1 billion, they booted Goyer off the DCEU. How did that work out for them? Not very well, as they kept on dumbing down the DCEU after they got rid of Snyder as well. We went from Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan, one of the finest directors of all time, and David Goyer. We went to Zack Snyder on his own with BVS and Justice League, which we never saw his Justice League for ages, but we did, and it was outstanding. Then we went to Jeff Johns and Berg. They were trying to dumb it all down. Then we went to Hamada, who went budget DCEU. So it got worse and worse and worse. They didn't stick with the people who launched that franchise off. And that's the problem. The problem was never Nolan, Goyer and Snyder. The problem was they were cowards and they kept on reacting to the internet. You've got to allow people to be creative, to take their shots. Movie making and scripted television is all about taking a gamble, working your story on a hunch. Either it works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, you shrug your shoulders and you move on. If it does work, you take a bow. That's the foundations that entertainment was built upon. But the ghost of Man of Steel is going to be haunting this Superman movie. Because Superman 78 has haunted every new take on Superman. It's interesting, Superman fans are a lot kinder to television Superman adaptations than they are to movies. Why is that? Because the audience understand the schedule of a TV show has to move fast. It's not easy. And the budget is a lot less. So they understood with Smallville, its budget was very, very small, but higher than past Superman television adaptations. Superman and Lois got a lot of money thrown at it, and you can tell it's probably the most expensive Superman television adaptation ever made, and it's been absolutely fantastic. But here's the problem with DCU, and here's the problem with Gunn's Superman film. Before we even see a trailer, which we're going to see hopefully next month, and this is the place where you can get an honest reaction about that trailer. Can't wait to see it. Because they've crapped on Henry Cavill, Man of Steel, Snyder, Goyer and Nolan, because they've now crapped on Tyler Hoechlin, you've got 2 different groups of fans who are not going to be very receptive to what they're doing. You can't keep on crapping all over versions of Superman and getting away with it, right? Because basically what we're seeing with DC Studios and DCU is just the same kind of aesthetics as we saw with Bergs and Jeff Johns, what we saw with Walter Hamada. Now they've got this new guy, James Gunn, because he's a little bit popular with the audience. They think they're going to get away with it. Will they get away with it? Well, it depends if hardcore Superman fans embrace this version of Superman. And that, my friends, is the big question.